All right. The floor is yours.
That's quite lovely. So first of all, I want to say thank you to you, Linda, for the invitation to be here. The work that you guys are doing is incredibly important, and this is I've been doing employee engagement work longer than I care to admit, about 25 years, and this is the first year that high engagement and well-being have diverged during COVID. So what we are beginning to see is people who are killing it at work and depleting themselves, right? So the Leader Mom work is in a lot of ways around we're not unicorns. So people think killing it at work and having a life are incompatible, right? When I grew up in consulting, I was at Goldman Sachs one day and I was pregnant with my eldest daughter, who is now 19. And one of the senior female executives after my presentation came up and said, I was like visibly pregnant, like 6 months pregnant. And she came up to me and said, "You're going to be great as long as you don't have kids."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, "Thank you very much. I will not be working here." Right.
Mm.
But that message, right? How many of you have at some point in your lives either overheard or received a message like that? Can you let me know what it sounded like in the chat? Like, what did that thing, uh, that message around what you're capable of sound like? Or what did it feel like? It is a little worse when it comes from a woman, but not necessarily. Helpless, frustrated, right? You were treated differently when you announced you were pregnant. Denise, right? So that sense of people have this anxiety around motherhood. Um, the fact that it's actually categorized as a disability doesn't help, right? Different kinds of things structurally, individually. You get scared, you feel undervalued. So here's the interesting thing: people who are pregnant and working, the research shows that they actually work harder to demonstrate their commitment. And so, in so many ways, that's the thing that ends up burning us out. Is we feel the resistance to who we are, and then we work that much harder. So I want to ask you in the chat, how many of you identify, like, just give me a yes or like, yes, I identify as a leader mom. Yes, I want to be an ally to working mothers. I manage or work with, like, help me understand how you're coming at this issue. I should get a sabbatical. Oh, good God. Yeah, that, right. So that sense of moms get more, right? That injustice. Oh, I have to wait while people pump. Thank you for all of that. Okay. May wants to be an ally step parent, maybe want to be a mom, ally resource. Okay, working mom manages working mom. Okay, caregiver to a disabled son. Uh, want to support working moms. Okay, great. So we're coming at this from different places, and I want to be real clear about what I know and what I don't know. Can you guys pull up the slides just quickly for me? Um, and for those of whatever your role is here, I have this radical concept that I'm single parent, like it's a very different ballgame, Kim, as a single parent. And for all of you, thank you for being here, right? So I'm going to work from, if the Procter and Gamble of our brand is what we call whole leader, right? So whole leader, this notion of killing it, right? So I am, raised in consulting with folks like Marshall Goldsmith, right? It is about the business result, and I am unequivocally unapologetic about that. Then secondly, having a life, like, not that leadership does not require depletion is part of that. So leader moms live in that quadrant: high results, high well-being. Doesn't mean that every day is spectacular. It means that we are it's I kind of think in 2-week increments, a net over the course of 2 weeks, am I doing okay, right? So, and I think of it as managing a success to mess ratio. The cool part about it is that when we do that, right, we open up leadership, because for there's a bias that leadership is male. It's very well established. There are these rules that are like, Kathy, you could totally be a leader as long as you don't reproduce, right? Or there is no work-life balance in leadership, right? There may not be balance, but there is skill, there is work-life effectiveness, there is what we call work-life mojo. It's basically like learning to become, the metaphor I use is black diamond skier, right? Like not everybody wants to ski that way. If you want to stay on the greens or the blues, mazel tov. But if you want to ski at a higher level, you can learn it. You just have to learn to drive and to recover. So the inclusive part of this, as a consultant, I've seen everything from Enron to the crash on Wall Street, and I really do believe that by bringing a less gendered version of leadership, we're going to be able to have a more sustainable, healthier, less dysfunctional, greener kind of way of being in the world. Because the bias that we're going after, if you can go to the next slide. So what is a leader mom? Leader moms, right, are not unicorns. They're more, do we have any bird watchers? Let me know if you're a bird watcher. I am a bird watcher. It's kind of the data dork. Like I like patterns and things. But there's something called the saw-whet owl. Hey, Katie, thank you. And not a lot of people see it, but it's everywhere. You just have to know where to look for it. And leader moms are kind of the same way. They tend to cut out. Oh, I love hummingbirds, Brittany. They tend to cut out of work, so you may or may not know that there's one in your organization. They deliver a lot of value, those kinds of things. So the leader mom definition is high performers who are highly engaged and admired as the type of parents they are. So this is in many ways, I don't want to teach to the average. We're going to the positive outlier, right? Because for many working women, they have a really hard time. They may not have a boss. They may not have the support at home. They may not have figured out the skills. So what we did is jump over that average and go for the positive outliers. And we have a panel of these women, and we don't define them as only C-suite. It's senior director and above. So the idea of, I don't need to want to be king of the world or queen of the world. We do want you to really step into what your potential is and your ability to add value to the world. So can you tell me what you see, Linda, on the screen?
Sure. I see the PowerPoint and the slides on the side.
Okay, great. So can you guys put it in slide view so that the second slide with the leader mom definition pops up?
Yep.
Okay, so I put my email in the chat, and I'll do it again at the end. Thank you, Nicole. And just because I would really like to be an ally to anybody at this moment in history. Pre-COVID, we had more women in the workforce than at any other point in history, first-time majority. We are literally, working moms are in an excruciatingly difficult moment, and I'm not going to walk you through the pain of that because I think many of you have witnessed it. There's a lot of coverage of it. And there's this, Linda, can I swear?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to swear, but there's this crazy ass complacency around the loss of female talent in the workforce. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the reason is people live into this question around, can we do it all? Or at least for working moms, they use that as the brain shortcut. And it's the stupidest possible measure of anything because no human can do anything at all, right? We don't even know what it is. It's an ambiguous antecedent if you are at best or if you're a grammar person, it's like no one knows what it is. So
and we're still waiting to see the slides advance.
Okay, Susan, are you asking the question of, not sure if you don't want camera, you can't see me? Okay. You know what, we can, if the slides are not moving, let's just kill them and I'll send them out after, if that's okay with you guys.
Anne, do you want to unmute yourself and let us know what you think?
And Susan, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what I thought it was showing, so I'm not sure why you weren't seeing that. Do you want me to show the slides or not?
Please go ahead and, go ahead, Catherine, it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm going to actually vote no, just for logistical reasons. I'd rather see your faces and have more of a conversation, and I'll send you the slides after. So the thing I just want to say is, so all of the stuff, the counsel I'm going to give assumes competence and contribution. So the high performers are killing it at work, and one of the senior leaders I worked with at ESPN said, basically you earn your leash, right? So this notion of helping people add value and perform, and then figure out, as I have that equity, career equity, as I have that value or leverage to use, what do I do with it? And I want to say, one of the things that I've learned early, and it to your point earlier, Linda, about Pride Month, there's this guy named Steve Urban who works for Accenture, and we met at the Work Human conference. And I gave a talk about LeaderMom, and at different points, people have come up to me and said things like, I mean, a lot of things that are sort of like, do you want more for these women? You know, is that really our responsibility? What do other people get? And it very quickly becomes this like, is it really fair thing? And my point is basically, would you please stop poking us in the eye? Right? Like, we're not asking for additional things. Adam Grant, who was also at Work Human with us, when he was one of those people who really came up to me and said, Kath, you need to keep doing this, because a growing body of literature shows that motherhood-related bias and penalty is the single biggest reason we don't have more women in senior and exec leadership. So whether you have kids or don't have kids, the bias affects us all the same way. So if you are a female who chooses not to have children, people will, I'm sure this has happened to many of you, like, why didn't you have kids? Like, people look at you and wonder if there's something wrong with you. If you are a male who chooses to parent actively, there's often a boost associated with that if there's occasional showing up. But if you do it consistently, or you become a stay-at-home dad, the flip side of that bias is that more than 8 in 10 associate women with family and men with career. And so if you in any way, on wherever you are in the world, if you violate that expectation, no one likes you, right? And so my grandfather used to tell me, Kate, only my family calls me Kate, but he'd say, Kate, if you're not annoying someone, if no one's talking about you, you're not interesting enough. And if it weren't for that voice in my head, as I moved forward in life, or the Adam Grant voice in my head saying, keep going, right? There's so many weird things about how people relate to motherhood that I would have given up 10 years ago. And so this thing is personal. And Steve Urban came up to me and said, you know what, Kat, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter. And he said, I don't have kids. I don't intend to have kids. I am a gay male, and I want to be a leader mom. And he said, I think I am a leader mom because I'm trying to show up for the people I love and not be entirely depleted by work. And that to me is like the highest manifestation of this work. Is women leaders tend to score higher on teamwork behaviors. They tend to have higher interpersonal acumen, higher humility, results focused, ability to get things done. And if more men understood those things, that we could export what's great about female leadership to male leaders, in addition to asking women to be more X, right? Like, don't take things personally, just keep driving forward, be more tenacious, be more confident, whatever. And I have a deeply ambiguous relationship with confidence. But that's the gist that we want to go in. So this thing I recognize is deeply personal, and wherever you are on the leader mom spectrum, I don't care if you're a leader mom, mom leader, just leader human. That's the idea of what we're trying to extrapolate, people who do well and can live well. And if you think about sort of, if you gave me one word to describe what people think the life of a working mother is like, well, can you just type it in the chat for me? Like, just busy. Okay. Harried. Nonstop. Constant. Yeah. Challenging, stressed, giving, lovely, exhausting. Okay, exhausting, right? Okay, that's enough. That's the gist of it, right? Like the Carrie Fisher in Bridget Jones' Diary or whatever that movie is, like the chaotic female, like who can't get her shit together, who's running and never in the right place at the right time, right? That energy is a lot of what we feel around the phrase working mother. Perfect. It's like, I'm trying to get something done, somebody, and especially during COVID. So here is a basic diversity principle. If you want to know about somebody, let them tell their own story, right? And so when I'm a survey researcher, so early in this process, I had a coachee who was young, and we talked to her about what are you going to do with this, right? Like, what do you need? And we matched her with this woman, Michelle Detondo, who's also Asian American, head of, she had like 68,000 people reporting to her at MGM Resorts. And they connected, and I realized I can just ask these people how they are. So when we do these surveys of this panel of high performing women, okay, and compare what that GIF or with what I'm about to say. 8 in 10 identify their lives as close to ideal. 97% say they're super satisfied with their family situation. 97% are super satisfied with their work. They are killing it, and they do at least 51% of the childcare in their families on average, and they work 52 hours a week. So they are not on average, they're not doing the 80, 100-hour week thing. They have, and they have all kinds of variants of how they get stuff done. But this idea of, oh my God, this is pretty spectacular. It's like a Harry Met Sally, I'll have what she's having moment. And if more young women just knew being a leader mom is amazing, and it's challenging. So the most common challenges are guilt, right? About a third of the women in the panel struggle with guilt. And then about half see gender equity insight in their organizations. So whether you think half is a whole lot or half is not enough, there are definitely gender bias issues that people navigate daily. And so that piece around, okay, this leader mom thing, we need to get better at telling the story. And if you do one thing for me, or for humanity, anytime someone says she can't have it all or you can't have it all, just say, wow, your brain's super lazy. Like, let's just solve the problem in front of us, right? Because it's a shortcut and it's a bias and it's normal. And we take something that's hard, like who's going to do the dishes and how am I going to get childcare? Or, do I really want to go to that meeting, and turn it into, can you do it all? Nope. So don't let your brain replace that. Sorry, somehow that I just clicked that accidentally off. Okay, so I want to walk you through 3 core messages that leader moms would say. And this, as we go into the breakout groups, I want you to think about these. So Linda, okay. First one is root yourself in your values. So a very specific thing, like, what do you actually care about? The world is going to, as a female, just as a human, but particularly as a female, the world is going to come at you with all kinds of expectations. So what do you actually care about? And the clearer you are about your intrinsic values, the better your life is going to be. So for example, this is a super practical one, and it relates to guilt. So there's general guilt, like helpful guilt. Guilt is helpful when you have violated one of your own values. It's an emotion that cues to you, oh wait, I'm off track. I don't feel great about that. So, and then sometimes guilt is baloney, right? It's that overall you're supposed to do everything and oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. So if you think about a time when guilt was helpful, guilt was not helpful, that will help you get clearer on what you really care about. So in the breakout groups, consider like the last time you felt guilty and whether it's helpful or hurtful to you. So I'll give you one example of a helpful one. Like I traveled once on my son Jack's 6th birthday because I got all kinds of pressure to do it. And when I FaceTimed him, I felt like a complete jerk. I don't care if you're the Pope now, I'm not traveling on my kids' birthdays. So that was a really, really useful moment of guilt. One of the leader moms in our panel said she felt guilty. She's a finance officer, and she felt guilty at the end of the year when she hosted like a joint family holiday that was Jewish Christian. And so she was trying to cook like latkes and make her mother-in-law's pecan pie. And she's like, I feel terrible. And she's trying to close out the books for the year and do everything else. And she said, her friend said to her, why don't you just give your recipes and your plates to the caterer? And she did that, right? So she didn't have to tell anybody in her family that she didn't make it, but her actual goal was to have a nice meal with her family. She didn't have to do it, right? And so for her, that was the baloney guilt. So that's the first one. Root yourself in your values and use guilt to, wisely. Engage guilt wisely. Don't let it be an autopilot thing because it's often ripe with bias. Second one is know your value, right? So if you think about the last 2 weeks, the single highest value contribution you generated at work and how you know, right? If you manage a leader mom or are an ally to a leader mom, you might take this to the direction of help her see where her value is, right? Like you showed up today and you produced this and it was incredibly valuable. Right. Or if you could bring a little bit more of this, you'll kill it. Right. A lot of people, when leader moms are during COVID, they are basically, there's this like benevolent paternalistic sexism that's kicking in where people are actually taking stuff away from leader moms or leaving them with weird stuff or going to them too often for miscellaneous stuff that isn't theirs. So like feeding the high performer more. And it's like, no, help that person actually deliver the value in their job and distribute the work. So that piece around know your value and help women claim it. And the last one is really add value in the time you have. And that requires engaging the team, right? So for a lot of leader moms a lot of women in general have been rewarded for producing over time. And we really don't want people to live into just that, right? The 3 biggest development areas in our panel are executive presence, which is a little bit ripe with bias. It's like women trying to make the role themselves. Second is delegation, and third is financial acumen, right? But if you think about that one about adding the highest value you can, if you manage or are a leader mom, if you're clear on where your value is, the engaging the team for the rest of the stuff, right? Does any one of the leader moms in our panel used to use this filter? Her team would come to her and they would say, can you help me with this? And she would say what? Yes, right? Now she says, wait, tell me what you need. And is there anyone on my team who that reasonably falls into their job description? Right. So this notion of still productive, still whatever, but really leaning on the talents of the team, which as a whole leader advocate, we want you to be amazing and we want you to let other people be amazing too. So the enemies are Wonder Woman, Superwoman, martyrdom, like I'll suffer so you don't have to kind of thing. And really knowing your goal is to add value in the time you have, which requires you to both acknowledge your limits and figure out where the genius is of the people around you. So even things like, on a personal note, I used to be neurotic about the dishwasher. Now my kids empty the dishwasher. It is a mystery where the potato peeler will be, and I just live with that, right? So done is better than perfect. And I want the kids to feel like they're contributing and they need to have some responsibility here. So I don't need to fold their laundry if they're 16. My kids go with unmatched socks if they don't fold their laundry. And I think their significant others someday will thank me for that. So those are the main things, right? Know your values, like what really matters to you as a phenomenally important defense against bias, and know where your value at work is, where the things that are meaningful to you, that you're good at, where they are additive to the organization, and help reinforce that in your colleagues. And then this notion of add the most value you can in the time you have. Those are three of the biggest pillars, and that last one really requires engaging the team as a whole. How does that feel?
Feel free to unmute yourself and speak up.
I love the looks on your faces. Like I can see some of the smiles of like, oh yeah, or I've been there, or oh damn. Is there anything in particular that resonates with you in that?
Ruth, if you want to. Oh, someone has raised their hand. Go ahead.
Okay.
I resonate very much with the whole guilt thing, the wanting to do everything for everybody, people coming to you for help or to do something. And I have to really work to balance can somebody else on my team or point them in the right direction, as opposed to sure. And all of a sudden I've taken on all this weight and out of guilt and wanting to be there and supportive for others. And then it ends up weighing me down. So that's been a big thing for me.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that, because so as an executive coach, here's the thing: if you can see it, you can change it, right? And so the hardest people to coach are the ones who are so deeply on autopilot that they won't pause to go, wait, this thing is not working the way I want. Because what you just described, Shelley, is my intention is to restore support the relationship. My intention is to show up for these people, but somehow I am overreaching, over fixing, over functioning. And then I end up tired and resentful, which actually breaks the bond I'm trying to create. So once you recognize that you have a pattern of behavior, that the thing that your intention and your impact are not the same, you can think, okay, so let's not do that. And Shelley, coaching wise, I would just say every time you see it, give yourself credit for going, oh, look, I did it again, with a smile on your face. Like I can see it, there it is, right? It's kind of like bird watching. Like, oh, look, the blue-winged warbler. And then as you do that, you're actually weakening the neural pathway that's automatic. And then you can begin to resist doing it. So it's kind of like, all right, this person is bringing me something. And instead of automatically saying yes, I'm going to say, is there something you need from me? Or how can I be of support? Or what have you tried so far? Or I am so confident you're going to be able to handle this, right? So for any of you with teenagers, they come to you with all kinds of stuff. And I have learned, shoulder shrugs are incredibly powerful. I was like, I know you got this, or that must be so hard. And I'm just going to stand with you. So Shelley, watch what other people do, who you admire. Like my colleague Maria Serwa, she is one of them. She has the best empathy and the best boundaries of anybody I've ever seen. She grew up in pediatric oncology. So watching children die from cancer will teach you that. And so I literally will pretend to be her in moments that are like that for me. And if you feel resentful on the other side, just know you said yes to something you don't actually want to say yes to. So that integrity for you is super important. Make sense?
Great. I will stop the recording there.